discuss it. Okay, we left off on Nun Chesem and Aleph. Holding over here about the Mishnah says that if you mekadosh with chulish nishch ba'azora, a person took a non-consecrated animal slaughtered in the sanctuary, it's considered Yisura Anoah, therefore he's mekadosh a woman with it, ain't mekudeshes. She's not married. So the Gemara says, has a whole discussion. What's the basis? What about if you slaughter a blemished animal? What about if you slaughter a chayo? An undomesticated animal, the species has no relevance to a korban. What about a bird? A bird which not only doesn't have species relevance to the species, a chayo has shchita. A bird within in the sanctuary has malika. So if you slaughter the bird, which is not explicit in Torah, how do we know? So we brought psukim that every one of these instances, if you do an act of shchita in the azora, non-consecrated, whether it's the domesticated, blemished, undomesticated, or the bird, it's considered chulish nishch ba'azora. It assumes a forbidden status. Therefore, mekadosh with any one of these things, ain't mekudeshes. Because if you give it something which you're not permitted to benefit from. Okay, that's where we're at. Now, the Gemara tells over a story. Mar Yehuda, Ashkechinu, Mar Yehuda, the Rav Yosef, the Rav Shmuel, Breid, Rabbi Bachona. Mar Yehuda came upon Rav Yosef and Rav Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Bachona. Rabbi Bachona is a Talmud of Rav Yochanan. So this is Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Bachona. Davikaima Pischa de Bei Rabba. They were outside the house or the base medrash of Rabba. Right? It's interesting because Rav Yosef and Rabba, they were contemporaries. They were colleagues. So Rav Yosef and Rav Shmuel, Berei the Rabbi Bachona, they're outside at the entrance of Bei Rabba, the base medrash of Rabba. Omalahu, this Mar Yehuda says to them, Tanya, we learned in the Braiso, Hamakadosh Petach Hamor. If you marry a woman with Petach Hamor, that's the first male donkey of a donkey, male donkey, the basa b'cholav, meat that was cooked in milk. Reb Shimon Om Mukudeshes. Reb Shimon says every one of these instances, before we psukim, he holds it's not Yisur. I know it's only you're not permitted, baschol, you're not permitted to eat it, but you're permitted to benefit from it. Pet chamor, you're not permitted to. The Gemara says that's only before it was decapitated. But after it's decapitated, the Gemara says even Reb Shimon agrees you're not permitted. And what about chulish nishch ba'azora also? It's mutar no. Chacham omrim ein mekudeshes. The Chacham say ein mekudeshes. Why? Because every one of these cases is classified as Yisur no, almo. So what do we see? If Reb Shimon says mekudeshes, what does that mean? Chulish nishch ba'azora is doraisa. Is lav doraisa. Chulish nishch ba'azora Reb Shimon lav doraisa. Right? It's not a Torah law. Otherwise, how could you be mekudeshes? If chulish nishch ba'azora, you're not permitted to benefit on Torah level, correct? So how does Reb Shimon say mekudeshes? Evidently, you see the doraisa, you're permitted to benefit from it. Whoop, wait. The words. Reb Shimon says, the Gemara says, we able to extrapolate from Reb Shimon's ruling that mekudeshes, the chulish nishch ba'azora is lav doraisa. It's not a doraisa. So what's the inference? It should be a Rabbanan. We have a problem. If it's also Rabbanan, it's Yisur Anoah. If rabbinically you're not permitted to benefit from something. And Tosas cites a Gemara in Psochim, right? The Gemara says in the 6th hour, Erev Pesach, Chometz is what? Osam D'Rabbanan, Osam D'Oraisa. It's Osam D'Rabbanan. It's only from the 7th hour onward. Isn't this D'Oraisa? And over there it says that even you have a type of wheat, which if water comes upon it and you find a crevice, even there, which is unlikely it's chometz, nevertheless, you mekadosh b'chiti kordenaisa, certain type of wheat, it says ein mekudeshes, although it's only rabbinical, so Tosha asks, what's the inference when it says chulish nishch ba'azora lav doraisa? It may not be a doraisa, but it's also midrabanan. And the Gemara says, if you mekadosh u'siri ano midrabanan, it's ein mekudeshes. So if that's the case, we have a problem. So here the Gemara says, Reb Shimon says, if you take any one of these items and you marry the woman, she's mekudeshes. He clearly lav doraisa. But if it's lav doraisa, the inference is when the Gemara uses that term, it means midrabanan. So if that's the case, how should mekudeshes? The Gemara says in Psochim, that even though in the 6th hour it's lav doraisa, nevertheless, if you marry a woman in that period of time, she's Ein B'Kodeshes, because rabbinically it's Yisrael no. That's Tos's question. So Tos's answers via Shlomar. We didn't do the answer. We left off here Friday. Via Shlomar, the Hosam Ika Mio Shos doraisa. Lefi Mashabish Rabbeinu Tam Hosam. Now, the concept of Chometz B'Pesach. Chometz B'Pesach is also B'Doraisa. The 7th hour, right? Everybody agrees. You're not permitted to benefit. Chazal, the Chachomim, they made a fence because of Yom Unon. There may be a cloudy day and you're not going to be able to determine exactly when the 7th hour starts. And you may think the 6th hour is the 6th and not the 7th. Rabbinically, they say we treat the 6th hour like the 7th hour. So what is the 6th hour linked to? It's linked to it's a Doraisa. Now, the concept of Chol Shenish Ba'Zorah is what? Is Drabonon. On no level is awesome Drabonon. Whether you slaughter an animal, domesticated, unblemished, blemished, animal, undomesticated animal, bird, doesn't exist in the Torah. Doesn't. It's also Ba'achila, but Hano, it doesn't exist on the Torah level. Therefore, the fence, they don't make a fence. The fence, when do we make a fence that it's also Hano? If it's linked to a Doraisa, which is also Hano. But since Chol Shenish Ba'Zorah on a Torah level, there's no such thing, right? As a result of that, when we say Lav Doraisa, it doesn't mean the inference cannot be Drabonon. Because it's only Drabonon if it's linked to something on a Torah level, which is within that same level of prohibition. So there's no, the question was, the same terminology is used in Psachim. So it would seem to be, if that use that terminology, it would be Asum Drabonon to be in Nana. There's no comparison. There's a Tosis in Beyo. Okay? Tosis in Beyo. Mar has a question on Gimel Lamed Beis. It says, Sofik Be'asura on Yom Tov. If you have an egg which is Sofik Be'o, it's Asura. It's not permitted. So if it was laid before Yom Tov, we don't know exactly what it means. It lists many cases. It says, Beishnol, to be Yom Tov, you're not permitted. Use it for whatever it is. It's Muktzah. So Mar says, what about Sofik Be'o? If it falls into a mixture, even 1,000 to 1, and that from that mixture falls in another mixture, everything's usher. Usher. So more asks, what does Sofik Be'ah mean? If it's Sofik Muktzah, Sofik Drabonon L'Kula, right? No, so the Gemara says like this. The Gemara has a number of reasons. The Gemara says, Beishnol, to be Yom Tiv, if you have an egg that's laid on Yom Tiv, remember you learned this in 4th grade. Beishnol, to be Yom Tiv, Beisil says, Lo Ye'ochil, you're not permitted to eat the egg. So there are 4 opinions given in the Gemara in Be'ah. One opinion is Achona de Rabba. Achona de Rabba, whatever it is. Perish and notion, because it's similar to a fruit falling off a tree on Shabbos and Yom Tif. We allow you to eat it, you may go and pick a fruit. Or it's Mashkin Shezovu. If you have the liquid oozing out of a fruit, there's a concern you may squeeze the fruit. These are all rabbinic, Samar says. So it's all rabbinic fence. So why do we say Sofik Asura? We should say Sofik Drabonon L'Kula. So even without falling into the mixture, it should be permitted. So why is it not permitted? Say Sofik Drabonon L'Kula. But the Gemara asks a question on Mashkin Shezovu and Persa Noshri. Okay? That's the reason why you're not permitted to benefit. Yes, we should Sofik Drabonon L'Kula. So the Gemara concludes it doesn't make a difference because it's Davashesh Matirin. Davashesh Matirin, I feel valid for Basa. Since ultimately it's going to be permitted after Shabbos or after Yom Tiv, that's the reason why we don't apply the principle of Bittul. Right? That's the Gemara in Be'ah. So over there, the Maharsha asks a question. Of Gimel Lamed Beis. Why does the Gemara not ask? One of the opinions, the reason why it's Asur is because it's Muktzah. Because it has to be prepared from before Yom Tif. We say anything, as it says, Asher Tochlu, Asher Tvashlu Bashelu, just had it, right, regarding the Mon. It's Asher Tvashlu Bashelu, Asher Tofu or Eifu. Whatever you can cook, you cook from Friday. Whatever you bake, you have to bake from before. Anything that's not designated and prepared from before Shabbos and Yom Tov, you're not permitted. Muktzah, there's a concept of Muktzah. So the Maharsha answers that since Muktzah is rooted in the Torah, it's a Torah concept, therefore, even though it's Drabonon, in this context, the egg that's laid, we treat it like a Doraisa. We say Sofik Drabonon L'Kula. We say Sofik Doraisa L'Chumra. No, it's Drabonon. But since there is, according to Rabbah, There's a muktzah, which is a doraisa muktzah. There is a doraisa muktzah, so we give it the stringencies like a doraisa. If you have a Shabbos and a Yom Tov, one following the other, so it says the egg that's laid the next day was prepared the previous day. Okay, I'm not getting into Bay. I'm just showing you over there. He says because over there, mashkin shezovo, it's a rabbinic fence. It's a rabbinic fence. But over here, with the muktzah is what? Because it has relevance to the raisa, we treat it like the raisa. So it's called something that's ikro midoraisa, although the application is rabbinical, we treat it like the raisa you find. Here, where there's no basis to say chulin shnishba azora is the raisa, therefore, when it says lav the raisa means it's limited, it's not, and therefore, even on a rabbinical level, it's permitted. Now it's not the raisa. Right. That's what Tosa says. That's the Gemara here. That's exactly what the Gemara is saying. That's what according to Reb Shimon's Mukudeshes. Factually, Reb Shimon's Mukudeshes, correct? So what do we infer from that? Chulin shnish ba'azora lav doraisa. But why? So why psochim? Is it awesome drabanan and ein Mukudeshes? So we have to differentiate. This is the differentiation between chometz and chulin shnish ba'azora. That's how we're differentiating between the two. Okay? Everybody with me? Avrami. Okay, now. So this is Mar Yehuda asking Rav Yosef and Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Archana. Listen, Minu, we learned in the Brisa, Reb Shimon Omer Chulin Shnish Ba'azora Yisrafu. Now we have a problem. It says if you have Chulin Shnish Ba'azora, what do you do with it? You burn it. You burn it. So what do you burn it? It's evidently, if it's permitted to benefit from, why do they require you to burn it? It's evident burning indicates that what? It's also about no. Right? Because if you're permitted to benefit, you shouldn't have to burn it. This is the question he's asking. He's asking a phenomenal question. How could Reb Shimon say that Chush Nishba Zoro, because Lavdo Raisi Mikudeshes, that's Reb Shimon's position. Reb Shimon says explicitly in the Brisa, Yisrafu. Yeah. And the same thing with a chayo, non-domesticated animal. So, but evidently, so important Rashi here. Now, what's the halacha? Kochim psulim. You have you consecrate an animal, and let's say it becomes contaminated, you're not able to sprinkle the blood. What do you do with the animal? Well, let's say the blood spills out. What do you do with the animal? You burn it. So there, it's a regular bona fide korban, and since you weren't able to sprinkle the blood to officiate fully till the end, it has to be burnt. So what are people going to say? People are going to say, the people know chulin shnish ba'azora. They know this is chulin. They know an animal was slaughtered in the azora. Zrika definitely wasn't done, right? What's chulin shnish ba'azora? A person goes and he slaughters an animal non-consecrated in the azora. We're not talking sprinkle blood on the mizbeach, right? Regular animal. What resembles that animal? You have a korban, you slaughter it, and you have the blood in the cup. The blood spills out. Now, what do you do with that animal? You have to burn it. So if you're not going to burn chulin shnish ba'azora, what's going to happen? People will confuse A with B, or B with A. Well, B doesn't have to be burnt, so A doesn't have to be burnt, right? That's what you're going to say. So why do they require you to burn it? They require you to burn it because we're concerned you may confuse B with A. Yeah, if you allow the person to benefit from it, and not to burn it, people say, it's interesting. So you see a korban that becomes possible, a real korban becomes possible, you don't have to burn. You don't have to burn it. That's what people are going to say, because the people know the animal that was slaughtered in the Azara wasn't a korban. They don't know. What do you usually slaughter in the Azara? A korban. So therefore, rabbinically, they require you burn it, because otherwise, the korban, which becomes possible, is not going to be burnt. It's a fence. But no, every korban has the exact same rules. You need dalet avodos. You have to do 4 things: slaughter it, receive the blood, transport the blood, sprinkle the blood. That's basic. That's all done by the Kohen. Not except the shechita. It doesn't have to be done. But from after shechita, that it's all done by a Kohen. Let's say the sprinkle is not done. There's no korban that's valid. None. There's no such thing as a korban that's valid. You have to burn it. So let's say you have chulin shnish ba'azora. It was slaughtered. You didn't sprinkle blood on the mizbeach, correct? If let's say that animal does not have to be burnt, what are people going to say? You see? That a korban that's slaughtered in the Azora does not have to be burnt. So therefore, rabbinically, they say the chulin, because it could be confused, that's the reason why you have to burn it. Okay? So you'd say, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But what about a chaya? What do you have? But it says chen chaya. The Gemara says, he quotes the Gemara. The Gemara says in Chulin, it's gzera l'gzera. A chaya is not even a species. You understand? If you say a regular domesticated animal, which it's species, you bring a korban. So people confuse B with A. But how could you confuse a chaya? That cannot be brought as a korban. Wait, but say, right? You cannot bring a deer as a korban, right? So if they say, so you can't say it's rabbinical, because you may confuse it, because even that's called the gzera l'gzera. Because you can say, well, if you're not going to burn the deer, you're not going to burn the non-consecrated animal. But why are you burning the non-consecrated animal? It's only because it's the same species as the korban. So there's a gzera l'gzera. So if Reb Shimon says even the chai has to be burnt, what does that tell me? That tells me it's a doraisa. Must be a doraisa. That chul sh'nishma zora, where it's non-consecrated, is doraisa. So maybe I'll tell you only the species similar to a korban is doraisa. A deer is not. So there, you'd say that's a fence for chul sh'nishma zora. But if you tell me chul sh'nishma zora itself is drabonon, even if it's the species, so why is the animal, the undomesticated animal, that's a gzera l'gzera, it's a fence to protect the fence? Just read Rashi inside. He explains it very well. Okay, that's that. Just go to the next Rashi. Yisrafu. One second. Or lo dersh el midrabonon. Dilma also lemeimar koch. So why aren't you permitted to eat it? Dilma also lemeimar koch nifsul lacha shchito hein. People are going to say, what is this animal that was slaughtered in the Azora? It's kochim that became validated after shchito. Shlo nizrak domon. The blood was never sprinkled. V'komasani minayu. So you're going to benefit from what? From the korban. V'osi lehonis b'kochim shlo nizrak domon yisrafu. To what degree do I take it? Not only do we say you can't bury it, it has to be burnt. It's not sufficient to be buried. Like the Mishnah says in Tmur, what do you do with basar b'cholav? Basar b'cholav, you're not supposed to burn. You bury it. What do you bury? We explain, because the Gemara says that anything where the halacha is it has to be burnt, we say you're permitted to benefit from the ash. Of course, it's considered nasa mitzvah. But something which the Torah doesn't require you to burn, only says you're not permitted to benefit. So what do we bury it? Because it's takola, because it's a pitfall, because mistakenly you may come to eat it. Bury is like disposal. It's disposal, somebody shouldn't come upon it and mistakenly eat it, right? So over here we're saying real chush nishlev azora on a Torah level you're permitted to benefit from. But what we're saying, you should burn it, because it'll be confused with what? With, they didn't say you should bury it. You have to burn it, you have to treat it identically as what? As the korban where the blood wasn't sprinkled. Kachim shenifsalu. Yisrufu lo sagla bikfura. Alma yisur min haTorah. Why? The image rabbanon. Mi machmarinu kulahai. Are we machmit? Are we stringent to such a degree? Need the behemo gozer to psul mikdoshim. So if it's a domesticated animal, we understand there we create a fence, because that could confuse with a korban that becomes possible. Lo neimru kochim psul nikborim elachayo. But if it's undomesticated, if we're saying even the chulin, which is the domesticated animal, is only rabbinical, mechitesek holexel migzarotu kochim v'lami b'sreifo v'afil b'kfur, you shouldn't eat anything. Elavada yisurim min haTorah usreifosim d'reisofim b'behema. So the reason why you burn the animal domesticated is drabonon. Gos dilma oslemeim kochim psul n'kfuro. VaTorah omro yisru b'chayin nami goshlo tachol b'nechul nishlo b'azoro. If you say it's nisdoraisa, they're both. So if you're going to say that the animal doesn't have to be burnt, does have to be burnt, the chayid, not people who confuse the two of them. If they're both on the same level of Yisr, they're both Yisr, I know why one has to be burnt, one does not. So we can't make a differentiation. You're following? If chul nishma is permitted to benefit from, and you say you're burning the domesticated because of the korban, then we shouldn't extend it to the chayo, because there's no confusion. But let's say on a Torah level, we don't differentiate between the chulish nishlo bazora, it's also the rights to benefit from, and the chayo not permitted to benefit from. So now, why do they say you have to burn the domesticated animal that you're not permitted to benefit from? Right? Benefit is isdoraisa, because that'll be confused. But once I say that, since in prohibition, the animal, domesticated, and the chay are on par, that wouldn't be considered gzera l'gzera. That's like the most, that's called chad gzerahi. It's one fence, because if you're not going to allow one to be treated a certain way, the other thing, they're not going to treat the other the same. You follow what I'm saying? Right, and I say only the, and the chaya also is asabano, and you don't have to burn it. You don't have to burn it, so people are not going to burn the animal. And if you're not going to burn the animal, it's going to be confused with what? So therefore, we treat it as one category, because they are one category. On a Torah level, you can't benefit from either. Okay? But this is the question. He's asking a phenomenal question. Further. So this is the question Mar Yehuda asked Rav Yosef and Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Chana. Also, Lakami the Rabbo. Listen, they come before the Rebbe Rabbo. Omadu Palgo Ukminchik. You hear this? He says the person who asked the question, he's a what? He's Palga. He's here to undermine. No, he's here to undermine. He's what we call a contran. He's here to make trouble. He's a troublemaker. Meaning the question is not a question. I mean, certain people, they come, they have a certain kind of question to ask. He's always coming to undermine, because we have an understanding of Rabbi Yehuda, of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says, it says Mukudeshes. He says, doesn't make any sense. Hear this? Rabbi Shimon Latame. Now it's interesting. Chulish Nishba Zora is a doraisa. It is a doraisa. If you take a non-castrated animal, you slaughter it in the Azora, it's osam in Torah. So once we say that, so what would be? An animal that's not consecrated. You slaughter it in the sanctuary. The halacha is, Reb Shimon agrees, concurs, ein b'kodeshes. She's not married. Why is she married? Because it's doraisa. Osaban no. What do you have to burn it? That's a gzera because of what? Of kochim, shenipsalu. So the same thing, chaya. Chaya may be rabbinical. But chul shnishva zora is doraisa. Because it's considered a shechita. Torah says you're not permitted to slaughter an animal that's not consecrated in the Azora. That's what Torah says. So if you slaughter it, what's the halacha? Yisrael no. The way we rule. No argument. Reb Shimon agrees with our Tana of our Mishnah. Chulin shnishva Azora doraisa. Doraisa. If it would be an unblemished animal, or even blemished, it's what? It's doraisa. You're not permitted to benefit from the animal. What about if the animal you slaughter is a treifa? It's a treifa. Right? It's a treifa, means it has a defect. A shechita of a treifa, is it a valid shechita or not a valid shechita? That's a machlok Reb Shimon and the Chachomim. Reb Shimon knows shechita she'ena ruya, ain't a shechita. The shechita to be considered, you've slaughtered it, not slaughtered it, that it meets all the criteria of shechita, the animal, you have to be able to consume the animal. You can't eat the animal, that's called shechita she'ena ruya. Shechita she'ena ruya ain't a shechita. It's considered as you shot the animal. You decapitated it. It's not called you slaughtered it. So I asked, did you slaughter it? You never slaughtered it. Torah says, if it underwent the ritual of shechita and met all the criteria of shechita, then it's no. But whatever it didn't meet all the criteria of shechita, although you did the shechita, the Torah says that's not called you slaughtered it. That animal is not considered slaughtered in the Azora. That's the case. If you, let's say you bring chulin Azora and you decapitate it, are you permitted to benefit from it? Everybody would agree. You're permitted to benefit from it. It's only because it's chulin she'nishchatu. Reb Shimon's of the opinion, Reb Shimon letamei, the Tanya, hashochet is a treifo. Person slaughters a treifo. Chen hashochet v'niptzes treifo. Meaning, what does it mean? You slaughter a treifo, it's obvious from the very beginning. It's a treifo. Rashi says, it's nicker. How did you know it was a treifo? Like the Gemara says, like an animal that has water on the brain, its head is tilted. So you know immediately, if it has water on the brain, it's a treifa. An animal has water on the brain, it's a treifa. So it's either hashochet is a treifa, v'chein hashochet v'nimtzes treifa. You slaughter initially, you didn't know it was treifa, you do the internal examination, and you find out it has a perforated stomach, a perforated lung. It's nimtzes treifa. Zeh v'zeh chulun b'azor. So the Tanakh says, Both these cases, although it's a treifa, it's considered shchita schulin ba'azora. And therefore, what's the status? Yisrael no. Reb Shimon matir ba'no. Reb Shimon says you're permitted to benefit from it. Why? Because it's not called shchita. It's not considered shchita. The chachomim oshim. The chachom say you're not permitted to benefit. So what's the argument? So Rashi cites a number of cases where they argue. It's worthwhile looking at Rashi over here. Reb Shimon with the chachomim. What's the application? Torah says that if you steal a sheep or an ox, shorvaseh, utvocho umechoro. Utvocho o mechor. Either you slaughter it or you sell it. What do you pay? Pay dal vei, right? It's a penalty. So what happens if you slaughter the animal and you find out the animal's a treifa? Reb Shimon says one doesn't pay dal vei. Chum say you pay dal vei. So what's the argument? The argument is shchita ruya shma shchita. According to Reb Shimon, that you're not permitted to eat of the shchita because it's a treifa. It's not, you haven't slaughtered it. Chum say, but factually you did slaughter it, even though you're not able to eat. It's still classified as shchita. What about this halacha that if you slaughter an undomesticated animal, you have to cover its blood, right? What happens if you find out after you slaughter it, it's a treifa? Is there a mitzvah kisi adam? Reb Shimon says there's no mitzvah kisi adam. Because Reb Shimon says the only Torah says if you slaughter it, Chum say you have to cover its blood. What else? You're not permitted to slaughter a mother and its calf on the same day, right? It's the Raisa. Lo sishlo b'yomechad. It says lo sishchatu. What happens if you slaughter them on the same day and you find out one of them is defective, is a treifa? According to Reb Shimon, you didn't violate the lav. According to Chachamim, you did violate the lav. These are applications of this argument whether shchita sheniruya is shmo shchita or not shmo shchita. So once discussed a machlokes, it's a question, the application. Gemara says shochet b'Shabbos. What happens if a person steals a sheep or an ox? Shochet b'Shabbos. So rabbinically, you're not permitted to eat of that shchita. You're not permitted. We penalize the person. So the question is, do you pay dal v'hei? So the Gemara says in Ksubas and Gemara says in Bava Kama, brings cites a brisa. Reb Shimon says, "Because shchita she'ein ruya, lo shmo shchita," one doesn't pay dal v'hei. According to the Chachomim, Reb Yehuda, you pay dal v'hei. Because shchita she'ein ruya is shmo shchita, although you're not permitted to eat of the meat. So the Gemara asks, but it's only osam d'Rabbanan, because it says Shabbos is kodesh, but Maaseh is not kodesh. So Gemara says it doesn't make a difference. Even though it's asm d'Rabbanan, since factually not permitted to eat it, that's called shchita she'ein ruya lo shmo shchita. Right? That's what he says. Shchita she'ein ruya lo shmo shchita. Ever doesn't eat right. You never ever allowed to eat it. No, but the chiddush is, we want to discuss this. There's a question. Kiveg has a question that Rosh Hashanah Chalayos b'Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos. We don't blow the shofar. What happens if a person takes the shofar and blows it on shofar? Do you get credit for blowing the shofar? Here's a shayla. Right? For instance, there's a question, Tov b'dvar mitzvah. Tov b'dvar mitzvah of osa mitzvah. It's machlokes tanoim whether you have to bring a chatos. Person takes his lulav on the first day of Tov b'dvar mitzvah. Right? Below osa mitzvah. Osa mitzvah, there's no question. Person takes as a moel and he mouths the Friday child on Shabbos, confuses the two children. And the Shabbos child, he didn't circumcise. He had a Friday child which was delayed, and a milah was man on Shabbos. And mistakenly, he does the milah on the Friday child on Shabbos, which is not permitted. So it's Tov b'dvar mitzvah, also mitzvah. The child is circumcised. We're not talking about it was a Sunday child to have milah in the Shabbos child, because then that's called Tov b'dvar mitzvah. Mistakenly, he thought he was doing a mitzvah, but factually, he didn't do the mitzvah. Because the 8th day was first Sunday. Right? The Gemara speaks about both cases. What exactly is the machlokas? But over here we're talking about Tov b'dvar mitzvah, he blows, mistakenly takes the shofar, transports it into Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos. And he blows the shofar. Is he liable for a chatos for taking the shofar in Rosh Hashanah? It's Tov b'dvar mitzvah. Is that called also mitzvah? So the question is, Rav Kivega has, when the Chacham say you're not permitted to blow shofar Rosh Hashanah, are they just tying your hands, but factually you did the mitzvah? Or when they legislated the fence, they said they uprooted the mitzvah. Even on a Torah level, if you blow shofar, Torah doesn't recognize that Tkiyah shofar is Tkiyah shofar. They annulled the mitzvah. And the Torah, if they annulled it, then you're not Yotze. Reb Kiva Egel leaves it unresolved. He's not sure whether you're credited with the mitzvah or you're not accredited with the mitzvah. Because we see from the halacha of Shochat b'Shabbos, it's called Shchita She'eina Ruya, but factually it is Ruya. It is rabbinically you're not permitted to eat, but factually it is edible. So you see over there, what do you have to say? The Chazal, they uprooted the mitzvah, they nullified it. On a Torah level, you're not permitted to eat it. It's not a valid shchita. Let's say you have a whole community. They're allergic to meat. They can't eat meat, and you slaughter it. Is that called Shchita She'eina Ruya? Shchita Ruya. These people, they can't eat it. Chazal say they tie your hands, and they say we're not allowing you to eat it. Is the meat itself edible? Halachically, it is edible. But we see from over there, that's called Shchita She'eina Ruya. Meaning, legally, halachically, it's not edible. That's called, where do we find such a thing? There's a famous Rabbeinu Yonah in Shabbos. The Mishnah says that you should say Kriya Shema, right, from nightfall. What happens if you delay it? And you should not wait till after midnight. Because a person is prone to fall asleep. So Rabbeinu Yonah says that if a person deliberately delays Kriya Shema after midnight, he's not an onus, right? And he says Kriya Shema, you're not Yotze Midoraisa. But you said Kriya Shema. The whole thing's offense because we're concerned that if you don't say it before, you may fall asleep and you're not going to say Kriya Shema. So Rabbeinu Yonah says if a person is negligent and he does delay it for later, even if he says it, he's not Yotze. That's Rabbeinu Yonah. What do you mean you're not Yotze? Factually, did you say the Shema? So you see from Rabbeinu Yonah over there on that base that the Chazal are empowered by the Torah to nullify the mitzvah. That even though you said the Shema, it's considered like you didn't say the Shema. Right? You see that. There's a Tosas in Sukkah also. Certain situation over there where they nullify the mitzvah that you're not Yotze the mitzvah either.
That's what Sheikh's just passively saying, you know what, you have the mitzvah, we're going to say, don't do it, and you don't get the mitzvah. And that's why
Why don't you get the mitzvah? You do get the mitzvah.
No,
The Rabbeinu says you don't get the mitzvah.
right.
When they say Sheva al tes yesh kochem lakor dom min Torah, they uproot the mitzvah. That's Rabbeinu Yonah saying. They're actually nullifying the mitzvah that even if you do the mitzvah, you take the lulav even if you blow the shofar.
So why would that only work with the Asleis and not Los
What will be a low sasa?
I don't know what specific one would be, but
No, let's.
They're saying that you have something in the Torah, and the Rabbanan, I might understand that, but passively, if you're not going to do something, you don't get a mitzvah.
Not you don't move the mitzvah. No, but
That's
what do you mean? Of course, it's poshet you don't get a mitzvah.
Right,
You don't do the mitzvah.
Right.
But how are they permitted to deny you to do the mitzvah?
because you're not doing an action.
But how do they have the right? So it's either because they uprooted it. The Torah is saying there's no mitzvah. It's equivalent. They're empowered. That's that exactly. Rabbeinu Yonah says they're empowered to uproot the mitzvah. It's not they're just preventing you from doing the mitzvah. So that would be the difference. If they're uprooting it, so even if you do the mitzvah, you're doing nothing. But if they're only tying your hands, so then you get credit for doing the mitzvah. To be considered.